Okay, we're recording. So thank you for joining us this week on Mrs. Mummypenny Talks, and it is episode 37. I always have to remember the numbers of my episodes. As you'll be aware, if you've watched my videos or listened to the podcast for the last 3 weeks now, I've reverted to my favourite medium of Mrs. Mummypenny Talks, and that's a bit of a mouthful. And I am interviewing people again because I just think it's far more interesting to speak to people about their businesses, and yeah, I think it's better for the audience. So this week I have a guest again, which is Cedric Menager. I want to say that in a French way. I'm assuming you're French, but you might be Spanish. Yeah, Cedric, so tell us a bit about you and PagoFX, which is the your company.
Yes, thank you for inviting me first, and I'm glad to be speaking with you. So I'm the CEO of PagoFX, which is an international payment service backed by Santander, and I will come later. Maybe just as an introduction, I consider myself even if I'm very young, as a tech veteran, always been working in tech, and started actually as an internet payment last century. So that's pretty long time ago.
Wow,
and I've always been working in tech, both in entrepreneur, a few startups that I created or co-created, and in more corporation mode, like working for PayPal for 8 years. Was the first.
Interesting. I was going to talk about PayPal later, but we'll come back to that.
And then for Intuit, which is a very large US accounting and tax software company. I think they're pretty strong now in the UK as well. So that's another company large company that I worked with. And so recently, I would say now 18 months ago, I joined Santander to launch PagoFX, a startup within the Santander organization.
Amazing. Now, my mortgage is with Santander. I've literally just had to remortgage because of said mentioned divorce. And Santander, thank you very much, were the one and only company who would look at just 1 year of accounts, because I'm self-employed limited company director, and they based my mortgage based on just 1 year only. Everybody else, it's like has to be 2 years. So I'm very grateful to Santander for giving me my mortgage, and a really good mortgage rate as well, like 1.39%, which is pretty amazing. So yeah,
I would not take the credit for this because that's really not my business, but happy that Santander is able to provide you with this good conditions.
Yeah, no, I'm really quite impressed with them. So yes, so PagoFX then, right? So let's talk about money transfer. So it's a company that allows you to, right? So I suppose firstly, I personally have always found money transfer abroad, either me transferring it out of the country or money transferring into me, very expensive. So I, of course, use PayPal. So I have quite a few clients in America, and it's always been quite tricky to get the money over unless I use PayPal, but the fees are really expensive. So I couldn't tell you the actual numbers, but if I get paid $200, I probably lose maybe $15 of that in exchange fees and transfer fees. So that is very painful. I bank with Starling Bank for my business banking, and they do take American payments. So I have quite a big client in America that pays me around $500 a month, and that seems to come into my bank account quite easily. So that's good. Although I'm sure there's some exchange rate fees going on there that I don't know about. And then I occasionally have to send money abroad as well to, say, family members in other countries, or I anticipate when my children get a bit older, I'm going to have to send money out to them when they get, stranded when they're traveling or whatever. So there's so many examples where we need to send money abroad and it's just filled with expense, and you never know the best way to do it. So you're solving that problem.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned a lot of very relevant points on the use case. There are many use cases of people sending money abroad, whether they are expats or foreign workers sending money home, people having property abroad, as you mentioned, people having buying goods and services and paying with international payments.
Yeah.
As well as a lot of family cases where you have students abroad and so on. So the international payment is a much larger use case than people think maybe usually. And historically, the experience has been really unsatisfying with very large fees, as you were mentioning. Long delay to get the money from point A to point B, and a lack of transparency of the fees, lack of transparency of the amount received. And so very often you are sending money abroad and praying for how much we received on the other side, and that's clearly not a good experience. So what happened is that some of the fintechs came and tried to solve for part of those issues, and they brought new experiences and especially pricing. But what we identified in the market is that there is a big part of the population who is seeing those new opportunities that can solve some of the problem, but there is one big element that is not enabling them to make the jump, which is the trust and safety that they are for making international payment. And usually when you're doing an international payment, it's not a small amount, and it's an important transaction, whether it's for a property or family. It's an important transaction. So for you, having the trust and safety is something that is very important. And that's why with PagoFX, what we really want to do is to bring the benefit of the fintechs, which is usually the pricing and the transparency, together with the safety and the peace of mind that you have with a bank. And with bringing those two elements together, we have a unique proposition in the market for now individuals and very recently, as of today, for sole traders as well.
Yeah. So should we go quite specific and talk about some of the things that some of my readers and friends are experiencing at the moment? So my one of my really good friends owns a property in Spain. Now, I'll make up numbers because it's because we've had quite an in-depth discussion actually about, number one, how she paid for the property, and number two, how she pays for the ongoing, management charges, the electricity bills, all the maintenance costs of this apartment. So let's make it up. So let's say the property cost 20,000 euros. So how on earth do you pay for a property in Spain in 20,000 euros when all your money's in pounds?
So it's a very good question, because we had similar cases where we had customers in the UK buying houses and transaction up to 50K for buying doing the first payment of the house. And so 50K through PagoFX is possible. You have just to get an agreement with your bank to allow you to have the debit card limit up to 50K, but then that's possible. And the great thing about it is that you're paying in pounds, but you will know exactly the amount that will be received in Spain, which is important in this type of transaction. The recipient wants to see the 20K euros and not 1999 or less. So that you have the guarantee that amount will be received, and you are paying a very small fee. I think for GDP to euro for this amount, it's 0.70%. So it's really
it's what 0.7.
0.7. And
so that's the transfer fee.
That the So also very important is the fee. So we are doing a lot of education, and you can find some on our website. That very often you have hidden fee, and for PagoFX we've chosen to be absolutely transparent. So we show the mid-market rate, which is really the market, the rate you can find on Google, on Reuters, which is really the difference between the offer and the demand, and that's the mid-market rate, and which is the base. And on top of it, we charge this margin of 0.7, which is very, very competitive, one of the lowest in the market. And when you look at the transparency, it's even more one of the most lower in the market, because many of the competitors will hide some margin into the FX rate that they're presenting, which is something that we are not doing. So there is an education to be done on how pricing is displayed from the different player in the market.
Yeah, so just to demonstrate that then, because I know a lot about credit cards and debit cards and which are the best ones to use when you're, say, going abroad. So the Halifax Clarity card, or the Halifax Affinity card, is either Clarity or Affinity, which is this, it gives you a really, really great exchange rate. So I have this credit card that I don't use at all in the UK. I only use it when I'm abroad because I know it gives me this really clear, true exchange rate, the best on the day, I would hope. But most cards, debit cards or credit cards in the UK, when you go abroad and use them to, you know, pull cash out of the cash machine or to buy things abroad, they load on this well, you've got this secret rate, which is sort of hiding the exchange rate. So they'll add on a little bit to get a bit of a fee back there. Plus they'll charge you like sort of transfer of money fee as well. So you're being sort of double hit with a fee. And from what I've worked out about Starling Bank, because I was in Corsica last September and I was using my Starling Bank card to pull money out of the cash machine. I think they gave me a pretty good exchange rate. So you're right about the fintech brands. They're really trying to be transparent and fair about sort of pulling money out abroad. But I don't think people realise all of these different fees and all these different charges, and particularly when you're abroad. So they just, like, if I just use my First Direct, you know, my personal account, if I just use my First Direct debit card, I know I would get a really poor exchange rate because I know what HSBC does. I used to work for HSBC, so I can say that. And yeah, I just think it's a really confusing world, like the whole transfer of currency between countries and between people.
Yeah, I think there is again a lot of education to be done, because people don't always realize. And I think that having the, especially for when you are managing a property abroad or buying a property abroad, you have a bit of luxury to study and to look at the different offers and also to look at the timing, because what is important as well is look at the variations of the currencies, and especially when you are paying such amounts, and so that there are also, I think, education about, hey, when is it maybe the good time to make the transfer, and look at the variations. Recently, with the crisis, the Brexit, and all that, there's been a lot of variation on the pound, and I think that's really something where people should look at as well, because the variation plus hidden fees can be painful for the sender. So really, I think the thing that I would really recommend people to do is really look at the timing and really look at the way fees are presented, and look at the base rate, which is if it's a market rate or not, because that very often there is a lot of fees included in the FX rate which is presented.
Yeah, wow, it's really complicated. So and if you're making, say, a 20,000 euro payment, you think you could, if you just compared like one particularly scrupulous company to another, we could be talking hundreds of pounds difference, because
Correct.
it's such a big.
Absolutely. But even on the lower amounts, because in some cases, especially with traditional banks, they're taking a fixed fee plus the FX margin.
Yeah.
Even for a small amount, so when you transfer £100, the price only with the fixed fee can be as high as £20, which is completely silly when you are sending £100. So with PagoFX, we have removed any fixed fee. So there is no fixed fee. So there is no, you can do a €2 transaction and or a £2 transaction, and you will still be having only the 0.7% fee on the transaction. So it enables, if there is a small need to send, someone, to a family, a friend, a gift, you can do it without thinking about it because the fee is the same and there is no fixed fee.
Right, okay. So, right, another specific example then. I've got a good friend in America. She is a concierge in a hotel. And she's got a daughter who I occasionally send money across to her just to help support her daughter through college, right? And in the past, I've done it as a dollar PayPal friends and family, but I guess, or I don't even know how that's, I don't even know what that's costing me. I don't have the faintest idea.
I think it should have cost more to the recipients. So I think you might not have incurred the cost, but the recipient would be the one maybe more having a lower amount that what you would get with an international payment transfer like PagoFX. And so the percentage fee taken on the recipient is pretty high, especially if it's if there is an FX. So PayPal is widely available, so that's what makes it really a great service. But from a fee perspective, if you make the calculation between their fee and what would the recipient get if you would use PagoFX, yes, it will look pretty expensive. I think that there is also another element in mind. I think for the pricing, which is you have the pricing, which is the very important part of the decision making. But also when you think about having a product which is super simple to use and which gives you the trust and peace of mind, where you have a customer service which is available much more than what you could find with fintech, it's also some money that you're getting out of it. Because if it takes you 1 minute to make the payment, and without kind of thinking about it and slipping on it and say, will it be received and how much? That's also something which is valuable, I think, and concur to make the proposition very attractive and competitive.
Yeah. Okay. So talk me through the actual mechanics of how. See, I'm now sat here thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to use PayPal again. Do I need to set up an account with PagoFX, and I just need to make sure that any international clients of mine pay money into that account, and vice versa? If I'm making payments out, yeah, I need to transfer money into PagoFX to then transfer out.
So you will only need an account to send the money, because then you can send the money to any bank account in the receiving countries. So you only need an account if you are the sender. And really, what we wanted to how we build the product is really to have simplicity in mind, because we are not maybe targeting the early adopters who are already using fintechs. We are really targeting the people who are money conscious, but really again wants to have this reinsurance. So we have built an experience which is super simple, and I would say 90% of our customers are able to transact and to send money after an onboarding of 2 to 3 minutes. Wow. And what is required? So if you are a UK resident, you will only need a debit card and an ID to onboard. And so you just give your basic information, name, date of birth. Then there is what we call in our jargon the KYC, which is the identification of the customer, making sure that is the one who is presenting the ID and having the debit card. And so the onboarding is, you give this information, you take a picture of your ID, you take a selfie, we match that the selfie is the one corresponding to the picture on the ID, and then you're allowed to transact after, as I was saying, 2 minutes in most of the case. And so that's also very, I think, a good experience for people. Is like, if you ever need to send money, you can be empowered to do so in 2 minutes.
So it's via an app, yeah?
Yes, yeah. So there are, I would say, 3 options. If you have an iPhone, you go to the iOS App Store. If you have an Android phone, you go to the Google App Store. And you can also onboard from today, and we just announced it, on the web. So if you don't have a phone, or if you don't want to have an app, you can still onboard and transact on your laptop or computer.
So how long have you been live for?
So we launched in the COVID, during the COVID crisis. So that's
really?
only 2 months. It was an interesting story because we were thinking about, hey, it's clearly not a great timing to launch such a product and to do communication. But then we reflect on it and we said, hey, I mean, international payment, safe and low-cost international payment is even more needed today than ever. I mean, we had use cases of people. I mean, people having property abroad were having some repair to be done or things like that, not able to travel. They had to pay a plumber or someone like this, and that's a use case that was even more important in COVID. We had cases where people had students who were abroad, and they had to. They couldn't come back, so they had to leave abroad. They had then to pay for the to be repatriated. So,
yeah,
big use case. So at the end, we said, okay, never mind. We are useful in this context, and so let's launch. And we launched in mid-April, and we also thought about, hey, how can we help further, because we know that our service is very much needed in this context. But how can we make even a bigger contribution to the community and to the effort that everyone is doing to help each other? And so we launched a no-fee campaign where people were able to send up to £3,000 abroad without any fee. And so that was covering a lot of the use cases that we were exposed to, linked to the COVID, of people helping family abroad, helping whether it's expats or parents, and that was very well received.
That's amazing. So are you still offering that?
So it was a 2 months program that was ending today, actually, but we decided to continue it for 2 more months because we are still seeing some pain from the customers on the COVID crisis, and also, as we were announcing today as well, the service for sole trader. It's a population that has been struggling a lot, and so enabling the sole traders to also benefit from help, it's very important. There are many use cases in the sole trader segment where people are buying services and goods abroad, and it's very critical for them to get them in time and to be able to pay again international suppliers with the right amount and at low cost. And so we decided to expand the program for 2 more months for the UK.
Brilliant. So so you look after personal people, customers, and you look after sole traders. Can I set up an account as a limited company?
Not as of today, but this is coming shortly. So okay. we're and I think one thing that is great of being part of a large entity with like Santander is that we have done really a very strong base for our platform for everything around security, everything around financial crime, and the things that are really driving the trust and safety. And now we can innovate very quickly and bring new services. And so we launched 2 months ago. Today we announced the launch of Sole Trader, Web, new currencies, and I won't give you a timeline, but limited company is coming quite soon.
Okay, that's good. That's really good. So I could set up an account for Lim BT Personal and Mrs. Mummypenny Limited. Ah, wonderful. That's really good. It's really interesting that I think it's really important for I work with a lot of fintech companies, And it's really important to have a big company backing you, because it just provides that element of trust, doesn't it? And Santander is such a big name. Have done an incredible amount of work on their brands to build up this, you know, trust image, which I think they've done really well, because of, you know, the people they use, like Lewis Hamilton and those kind of names are, yeah, trusted names to go with the brand. But I just think it's just really, there's so many fintech brands out there, isn't there? I mean, hundreds and hundreds contact me, and I'm always looking for a fintech brand that's doing something quite unique and quite different. But to do that as well, which I think you are doing, but to do that as well as having a huge, you know, company backing you up, which provides that trust and authenticity, then it's almost like a perfect sort of meeting. So you've got that small company fintech mentality, so you can make evolutions very quickly and, you know, develop the product very quickly without the red tape. But then you've got the opposite effect of having the financial backing and the support and guidance from a huge company. So it's really quite good.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, that's really to the benefit of Santander, and that's why I really believed in the project and joined, that they really gave full autonomy to PagoFX to build the product, the user experience. We also, most of the team members are not coming from the bank. So that's also a very important factor, that we have people coming from the bank and they're absolute great experts in payments and in everything which is the backbone of the payment offering. But we've brought a lot of people from tech, from startups, who can really help us being the fintech side and really help us to be, I think the 2 or 3 elements that are really critical is the simplicity again of the experience, which you don't always have with a traditional bank.
No, you really don't.
and the mindset of really for customers is really the mindset of being really customer maniacs, I would say, and getting the learnings and the insights from the customers to improve the experience. And the last thing is about data. We are using a lot of data to understand how our customers are behaving and how we can help them go through the experience in the best way possible.
Yeah. So can I ask you about, I love discussing things like this. So I've got a banking background, right? I worked for HSBC for 5 years, from like 99 until 2004, right? That's where I qualified as an accountant. So really interesting time to work in the banking world, because it was quite irregulated. Is that the right word? So we were, you know, selling loans and incentivizing staff for selling loans. Like, come on. I worked in product profitability, so I had a really good view across all the products that HSBC sold in the retail network, and the corporate world as well. And so I have friends now who still work for HSBC from those days, and from what I can work out, it's still archaic. Like, I know they work in that fancy building in Canary Wharf, which I actually left a week before they moved to Canary Wharf, which was a bit annoying because I would have liked to work there because they've got a nice gym. But it's still so full of red tape, and there's a lot of systems that are still, you know, just this huge dinosaur of a system that it would literally cost, I don't know, billions to probably rebuild and pick it all apart. And like, HSBC employs 200,000 people in the globe. They are humongous. So what is really exciting for me is I want to see a shift in the banking world. Like, I think the only reason I'm with First Direct is because I helped to set up the First Direct brand, and I've stayed a little bit loyal to them, but I'm in the process of switching everything over to Starling because it's so slick. Like, I don't have to pay for business banking. I get a notification as soon as one of my invoices is paid. I've got all my pots where I put some money aside for tax. I put some money aside for holidays, and it's just so customer centric. That's the right phrase you use. So what do you think is the future of traditional banking and fintech banking? What's going to happen?
It's not I think an easy I would say thing to define, but I think from my angle, which is the one I see at Santander, very much depending, I think, on leadership, and I think at Santander we're very lucky to have top leadership, which is absolutely convinced that there is no choice but to become the digital side of the bank, to become customer-centric, to become data-oriented, to move fast. I think that if that comes from the top in such big organization where you have a similar number of employees at Santander, if there is no if there is not this absolute conscious about, yes, we need to make it happen, and that's what customer want, and we'll do it. And that, I think, what we have with Anna Botin at Santander is that she is absolutely convinced. She decided to invest 20 billion euros into the plan, and we have
20 billion.
20 billion, yes, which is a pretty big number, and so both in startups like PagoFX, but also in the core transformation of the bank. So this is happening. It's clearly not easy. And when you speak about fintech and bank, I think so. We are again a combination of the two, and that works very well. So I think that for me, what I see in the future is more and more combination of the two. And so whether it's a traditional banks investing more in fintechs, more partnership, I think that's how I see the future. I still see that the transformation that the fintech have brought into the market are very valuable, but banks now realize that they have to catch up, so they will catch up. How it will happen is still to be defined, but I strongly believe that there will be more collaboration in the future, where now it was more fintech saying we are going to kill the bank, it's a bank bashing in all ways. I think now the message is transforming, especially when you look at the business case of the fintechs, where they might need for some help on the financing side.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing. So Starling Bank, the last time I looked at their accounts, they hadn't made a profit. They've got so many customers, but come on, like, you've got to make a profit at some point, haven't you? So yeah, I think you're right. I suspect the big banks will swallow up the fintechs, and they'll become a collaborative thing.
Yeah, I think that if there can be more of the best of both, I think that would be beneficial for the customer. That's for sure. So I think that there is a lot of goodness in what's happening in the market.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because I know so much about it. I love sort of predicting what the future's going to happen, and also as a customer, like it's your money, isn't it? It's so. It's if we don't have money, it's and if we worry about money, it's a huge mental health issue. When you worry about money, where you're waiting on a payment to come through and you don't know where it is, all these and your money has to be in a safe place. I mean, I know in effect the money I have is just sat in the cloud wherever it might be, but because I know that my money's with a trusted bank, my investments are with a trusted investment company, my pensions are with a trusted pension company, then it just gives you a bit more security, doesn't it? Because money to a lot of people means security.
Yeah.
I was just going to say I've been doing a lot of study recently on your money needs and how it connects to your like real psyche, like your mindset. And I've worked out personally that money, there's these sort of 9 basic needs. It's sort of linked to like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but slightly different because it's a different professor that's come up with this new theory. But for me,
can you share it with me? I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I absolutely will, because Freya, who I've just done this studying with, she's just the most incredible woman I've ever met. And she's like an economist stroke psychotherapist. And but what she's taught me is my money needs come down to security and control, which is basically to do with my upbringing and, you know, what my parents taught me. My parents actually died in my teenage years, so that's why security and control is very important to me. And it's also why I chose a career in banking, because like, it was really well paid.
Ability, yes.
Yeah, so I had that, and why it was always important to buy a house. I bought a house when I was 23, and, you know, it's so interesting when you actually get into the mindset of what money actually means, and how the banks, the power the banks have, but the power they have to actually make a positive impact as well. So
yeah. And I think it's a bit of a shift that is happening now, is that also if you take the bank image, I would say it was became pretty negative with the past crisis, where I think today they're more and more seen as a solution, and really I think that the way that they are shifting also the culture to be again more customer centric, and that I think that's a good evolution as well. Yeah, but understanding the psychology of money and with people is very important and interesting, and I think that balance of I want to be very secure, I want to have trust, and because it's so important in my life, but at the same time there is a competition landscape, and so there are certainly offers that are different, and we should be able to look more into options to change, because the competition is making the market better and the offering better.
Yeah. Well, the concept of my business is, you know, Mrs. Mummypenny is all about educating my readers and my listeners to save money and to be financially free. But that's almost like the process, isn't it? Of, if you use this product, it will save you money. If you follow this process, you can pay off your debt. But actually, what you need to do is peel it back to, why did you get into debt in the first place? Which huge, but then also debt funds the banks. So, well, that's a whole different subject of economics, isn't it? But I think it's, I really think what people, certainly in the UK and Europe, and I suppose the world, but, you know, every country's different. I think people just need to start to understand why they're spending what they're spending. Well, yeah, just why, because there's no point there really isn't any point getting into 20 grand worth of debt just to live a lifestyle of keeping up with the Joneses. Yeah. But most of us do it.
Yeah. But I think that's why your discussion are very useful, because I think that the people are kind of aware, but how to make it that they are maybe not having the best service or price, but how to make it concrete and how to identify what the right thing to do is not that easy. Even though I would say that I think that in the UK people are more financially aware than in many other countries, and so I think that's something where there is a good base already on education on finance.
Yeah, well. Yeah, I suppose we are financially aware in the UK, but I'm just doing an interview, Jack. Sorry, I haven't got the key. Let me just finish this and I'll sort it out. Sorry about that. That was going to happen, wasn't it? Yeah, no, I think people are financially aware in the UK, but we have a huge, I mean, you live in a different country, so we have a huge issue with debt. Huge. And it's acceptable debt. It's credit card debt. It's okay to have 10 grand sat on a credit card at a 0% interest rate because it's manageable. I don't know if it's like it so you live in Spain. Is it like that in Spain?
Not as much. There is credit, obviously, but I would say certainly not as much as in the UK.
Yeah. So I'm on a bit of a mission anyway to sort out not just the middle bit where, Jack, I'm doing an interview, please. He's going to try and unlock the front door now, which would be interesting. Yeah, I'm just on this mission to not only sort out the financial education for people, but to also reverse it back to money mindset as well. So we'll see where that all goes, but yeah, I want to change the world. But I will connect you up to Freya, because I think you could have an interesting discussion, because she's trying to build this network of people in the banking world. So
great.
Okay. So what is, I said, well, because we're running out of time now, I suppose what's next is you're just going to keep on evolving and rolling out these changes and making it a better product and better for the customer.
Yes, I think clearly there are two aspects. One is really getting the product at the best level as possible, listening a lot to our customers, and that's what we have already done in the past 2 months. And again, we've been able to deliver new features as of today. But a big part of our plan is also to expand in other countries, and so going first to Europe, but then globally, because I think that at the end it's really important that the trust in the brand is on both sides, and that's important that we are also in other countries, even if we have picked UK as a first market to launch, given the very competitive market it is, and where we can learn a lot, being exposed to the best fintechs.
Wow, so exciting times ahead, like quite a mountain to climb.
Yes, I think one of our value in the company is embrace challenges, and I think that's really the mentality that the team has, and we really like to look at the almost impossible things to do, and that's a great motivation. And I think the mission itself is really exciting in our world. I mean, enabling people to have again this peace of mind with money is something which is even more important when you're looking at digital and global, and that's where we feel that we are on a mission which is very useful for customers, and so that's a great motivation to go at the mountain.
Yeah, wow, that's so exciting. Yeah, so how people find you then? So they just simple as go into the App Store, search for Pago, which is PagoFX, on the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, or they just go to the website and set up an account there. So it's really simple.
Absolutely correct.
Yeah, and you've got as you've explained, the really simple ID process, which the fintech banks are doing anyway. So great. Okay, well, that's it for the interview. That was really, really great. I really like that we got to talk about some other stuff as well, particularly the future of banking. And yeah, I'll stop recording, but don't go, because we'll
thank you.
Yeah, thank you everybody for watching and for listening. And this is going to be on YouTube via the podcast app, and then there's also going to be a blog post sort of around it, so it will sit on my blog as well as my social media. So that's the plan for it. Right, let's stop record.